Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our exclusive online workshop on Hack the Log Ransomware Prevention Skill. Here we will dive into real-world technique to identify and block ransomware threats effectively. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Moses Mupata, an award-winning cybersecurity expert and researcher. Mr. Mupata is from South Africa and is a PhD candidate in cybersecurity, a senior ISO officer, and certified professional holding both CISM and CA certification. His expertise and practical knowledge in the field of cybersecurity make him the perfect tutor and guide for today's session. I hope everyone will enjoy the session accordingly and will actually issue certification to all the participations if you stay till the end of the session. So stay tuned for all the information that you're gathering from Mr. Moses Mupata. And now we will welcome Mr. Mupata to take the session, continue and start the session accordingly. Good evening, Mr. Moses Mupata.
Hello?
Good evening, Mr. Moses Mupata.
Hello? Can someone confirm, please?
Hello, yes, you are audible.
All right. Thank you very much. Much apologies for all right, so we can start now. Right, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate for your time as well as your understanding in today's workshop, which is Hack the Lock Ransomware Prevention Skill. So today we're about to have an interactive workshop where we're going to look at on the understanding of the malware, specifically the ransomware, as well as some of the essential techniques and essential prevention techniques that can be applied to deal with the ransomware. All right, like I mentioned earlier, like I was introduced by Miss Sangita. My name is Moses Mupeta, cybersecurity expert from Zambia, not South Africa, specialized in cybersecurity services. Like I was introduced here as well, a PhD candidate for cybersecurity with also a number of certifications in the same industry, which is the cybersecurity industry. Thank you once more for your understanding as well as your patience. Today we are looking at in one of the most trending things in the industry, which is the most we talked at in today's industry. Like today, when you browse, when you go through the internet, you hear people talking about the ransomware. Not just people, but most of the organizations today that have been affected with a ransomware. That's the reason why today we are going to have this interactive session that is talking about the ransomware as well and how organizations, institutions can detect ransomware, prevent ransomware as well in their organizations. So we're going to look at a number of techniques that can be applied. Like I mentioned earlier, my name is Moses Mupeta. So let's get into the today's topic, or let's get started. So I'll go straight into looking at the objectives for today so that we can get to understand the some of the things we are expected today in today's session. First of all, we'll look at the definition of malware. It's important that before we can start looking at malwares, but the ransomware, we understand what a malware is. I believe we have got people we are joining for the first time or who are wishing to join the security industry and maybe what wondering what a ransomware is or a malware is. So we'll start by looking at that definition of a malware is, and also we'll look at other types of malwares that we have. Then we'll go straight into the malware mechanisms as well as the methods that can be used for detecting malwares. Not only that, we are also going to engage in a non-destructive demonstration of encryption. Specifically, we are talking about the malwares. Also, we're going to look at how we can block some of the suspicious traffics and understand into the steps involved in incident response and recovery, which is also important by anyone or anyone who is in the industry, anyone who is practicing as an expert in the industry. It's also important that we get to understand the phases involved in the instant response. In case you might one day maybe try to respond to an incident that has to do with ransomware. All right, so this is some of the things that we are going to look at today. So it will involve both the theory as well as the practical aspect. So let me jump straight into the business since we are already behind time. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, we need to start by understanding what a malware is. What a malware is. All right. So, malware is a short word for malicious software, which is a software crafted mostly to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems. It can be used for malicious purposes, including data theft and system damages. So we are talking about a malicious software with hackers develop or program just to damage the way our computer system operates, or with the hackers can craft just to have access to our computer system. So every malware has got different purposes or intentions that they serve. And when it comes to hackers, when they are developing or crafting these malwares, they'll find that they'll craft it or they'll program it in a way that it can solve their intentions. All right. So this is the definition that we can give for malware, and every malware is crafted to disrupt, it can either damage or it can assist the other people, the bad guys, to have access to our a computer system. Okay, what are some of the goals of malwares? The goals of malwares, one that I can give is to disrupt the services. Like I've mentioned earlier, hackers, they cannot just disrupt, they cannot just come up with a malware or program a malware or develop a malware without having a goal or knowing what they want to achieve at the end of that particular uh, development or crafting of that malware. So each and every time hackers about to come up with a malware, they need to set what we call the goals. Okay, so their goals can either be maybe to disrupt the services. When we talk about the services, we are specifically talking about the networking services. Okay, or they can have a purpose or a goal, which is to steal our sensitive data or sensitive information, or they can have other intention. Maybe if they have already hacked into our system, they may want to have or to maintain access to our the system that they have hacked, which is the zombie computers or the zombie system. So in and every time these malwares are crafted, there is a goal attached to it. Okay, there is a goal attached to it, and in most cases these goals, they can be like ones I've mentioned, or they has to do with the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, as well as the availability of data, where the entire cybersecurity is or rise. So they can craft maybe a malware that has to do with confidentiality, okay, which can assist them to achieve confidentiality, which can assist them to achieve availability, or which can assist them in achieving the integrity. So it and every malware that these guys they come up with, you find that there is a goal attached to it, unless those who are hacking for the sake of fun, or maybe they're just trying to practice their skills and the like, they're the ones who can just do it, maybe just craft a random malware just to see how it will operate, something like that. We can look at specifically the traditional malware types that we have, which is very very important before we can look at the ransomware, which is the main topic for this evening. So malwares, like we all know, or like we have been talking in the past few minutes, can be categorized into different types, as well as the different types or categories based on their characteristics and behaviors. We have got types such as malwares that can be categorized as viruses. When we talk about a viruses, we're talking about those malwares that replicate themselves once a user or a person interact with them. In most cases, these viruses, we find that they can be attached to legitimate files. They can be attached maybe to PDF files, uh, images, and the like. Okay. We also have got other kinds of malwares, such as the worms, which are self-replicating. So with the worms, these ones they don't need humans interactions for them to spread across the network. So immediately they land on our network, you find that they are able to spread independently across our networks without our interactions, or without interacting without humans interacting with them. We have other categories, the Trojan horses or the Trojan horse. These ones mostly they disguise themselves as harmless softwares just to deceive the users. In most cases, they'll ask to be useful applications. I'll give an example of the most common WhatsApps that were trending some past years, like GB WhatsApp, the Yo WhatsApp, which used to be which acted or disguised themselves as the most used WhatsApp compared to even the legitimate WhatsApp. So when you look at those applications that I've mentioned, they were just there to deceive the users because of the functions that they were offering to the users. Then we have, before I can talk about the ransomware, we have got spywares, which just spies on us, the users. So these ones as well, they'll be installed on our applications, stored on our devices. Then they'll start spying maybe on our locations, the calls we are making, spying on our messages and the like. In most cases, we cannot even easily tell that there is a malware installed on our device which is spying on it and every activities of ours. We have got hardwares, which is advertisement, malwares. Then we have got rootkits or rootkits. So rootkits, most we find that these ones they grant unauthorized access to systems. Okay, so the rootkits mostly they can be installed up into the kernel level of the operating systems, making it difficult to be uh, making it difficult for our antiviruses to detect them. Okay, because these ones once installed and that they'll grant what we're calling unauthorized access to systems. Then we have got the ransomware, which is the main topic for today, which we are looking at. These ones, ransomware, that we have, and ransomware in their today's topic. Almost most organizations, telecoms, financial institutions like banks, they are mostly that been affected with the same malwares, which is the ransomware. Okay, so ransomware, once they land on your system or on your computer, you find that they will encrypt all the files, and at the end of the day, the hackers or the people behind the malware, they will demand for a ransom from the affected organization or the victim for decryption. They will demand for a lump sum, okay, or they will demand or they'll ask for a particular payment in order for them to send a decryptor to your organization that will enable you to decrypt the files or other files that are encrypted. Okay, so and it's not always that these guys will send that decryptor to you. In most cases, they can keep on demanding for more monies from your organization or from your institutions. That's why today's topic is important so that we can avoid some of those things uh, in future. Okay, so these were just some of the traditional malware types that we have, or that are the most common ones that we have and that we are currently facing with in the industry, which can either be any industry since IT is in all the industries. So most all the organization they are facing with the same malwares. How do we recognize and respond to malwares? This is also another critical thing or challenge that most organizations are facing with responding and recognizing malwares. So just look at some of the things that can assist us or can help us in identifying threats, as well as the, each type of malware has a unique infection method and impacts. That's why it's important that as experts in the industry, or as those who are coming up experts in the industry, we know how to analyze the behaviors and patterns of each and every malware. We are talking about the incident response, which we're going to discuss later on. Before you can respond to any incident, you must be able to understand the type of malware it is. For each type of malware has got a unique infection method. So if you are unable to understand the impact or the behavior of that particular malware, you find that you'll be taking wrong action or you'll be responding in a wrong manner, okay, which will maybe make things worse or which won't work in any way. That's why it's important that each and every time we are being victims, we know how to check that particular malware infection. For each one of them, like I've mentioned, has got a unique infection method as well as its impact. And we can only know this if we are able to start the behaviors as well as the pattern of that particular malware, which we can find under the incident response as well. So most of these impacts that we are talking about can either be a worm, a trojan, a ransom itself. We find that they'll influence how organizations should respond. That's if you are able to identify malware it is, you will be able to respond as an organization. You find that most instances, recognizing the difference between a ransomware and viruses, in most cases, we find that it will guide the instant response process because we are able to differentiate between the two. So we expect the incident response plan to be much easier. But if you are unable to do so, then the incident response process will take longer or you won't be able to initiate it because we're unable to differentiate between the two. All right, so we are going to have an answer maybe in the next after this, right? That has to do with ransomware. Specifically, we'll look at how a ransomware happens, how how data gets encrypted, as well as how we can decrypt information. If a decryptor is given, that should come in the next slide. But before we can do that, let's now introduce the today's topic, specifically the ransomware. Most organizations, like I mentioned here, worldwide, not just in, in a given country, but worldwide, we find that most organizations they are victims or are victims of ransomware. Number of them just in 2 days have been affected with the ransomware. So here now on this slide, we need to understand on the indicators of ransomware attacks as well as the mechanics of the same attacks called the ransomware. Number one, ransomware don't just get crafted anyhow. Before a ransomware is crafted, what the guys behind those malwares do is that they start by understanding the attack vector for that particular malware. Okay, before they are even deployed, they start by understanding the attack vector for this ransomware. So once a ransomware is crafted, hackers they need to come up with a way of deploying that particular malware. How are they going to send this to our computer systems or your computer system? So they can not do that if they don't have knowledge about your organization. So before they do all these things, they need to understand how your organization, our organization, my organization operates. Then it will become easier for them in coming up with an effective method or in choosing an effective method that will be used to deploy the same malware. If they will have no knowledge about your organization, the people managing your computer systems, your servers, and the like, then they'll have issues in deploying it. That's why they always start by understanding your organization, your business cycles, the people managing your systems, the knowledge that they have in security, defensive tools that they have put in place. Are they using any EDR? What kind of EDR are they using? So in most cases, they can even ask to be your clients before they can deploy this, because they need to have full information. That's what most hackers do, unless these ones who are just learning how to hack, they're the ones who just do it randomly. And in most cases, they just endanger themselves from being caught. Okay, so how can it how can ransomware be deployed? So I've got different methods that hackers uses to deploy this ransomware, most which can be through phishing attack means. So if they are targeting an admin, they need to look for the best way of deploying it. Is it email phishing? Is it smishing of mission? So in most cases, it can be through email phishing, where they send it to a particular individual working for that organization. Okay, they will send, or they will spoof an email, which can either be which can be crafted to look like a legitimate email address, maybe coming from the HR department to that particular individual who is their target. Once that happens, or once that particular individual opens that, you find that all files on his or her computer will do what? Will be encrypted, and they'll start demanding for a ransomware. Okay, so that can be through phishing attachments. With the phishing attachment as well, they need to look at the person who can easily fall for that particular trick. Okay, fall for it. Okay, they also need to look for the person's email address. Okay, the person's email address. So they'll follow the same phase of the hacking, the 5 phases of the hacking will still be applied here, which where we have the first phase, which is the reconnaissance, same as information gathering. They'll go to the scanning of the network, because they need to look at the services that are running in your computer systems that these guys can use in deploying as well as taking advantage of your computer systems. Then they will proceed to the next attempt, which is now once a ransomware has been planted on your system and the like. So they can also follow the phases of the hacking cycle. Okay, so ransomware can also be through drive-by downloads. Okay, through remote desktop brute force. There are organizations whereby they have enabled RDP, okay, with where they have left it with the custom port, sorry, the original port, which is 3389. Okay, and find that this particular server may be open to the public network, or may be open or available on public network. Okay, instead of being an internal network or being open, this particular port to be open only to internal network. Once the hackers discover that you have other DP open to the public network, then they'll try to take advantage of that particular service, which is the RDP remote desktop, to perform a brute force attack until maybe they manage to find the credentials, specifically the passwords. Okay, so after studying the attack vectors, they come up with the best way of deploying that particular ransomware. Then a ransomware lands on your computer system. Now the process of encryption starts. Okay, and this process follows three main stages. Follows three main stages. A person opens, like we mentioned, we talked about, I gave an example of the the phishing attack, where someone receives an email from the HR department with an attachment, then that particular individual downloads that particular attachment on his or her machine. So what will happen is that before the encryption, or before everything happens, there are three stages that are involved in. The first one is file discovery. It needs to discover where the files are located, as well as the files to encrypt. Okay, is it going to encrypt all the files? Is it going to encrypt just folders? Is it only going to encrypt the document files, the PDF files, and the like? So file discovery is something that is initiated by the ransomware before it completes the encryption process. After discovering the files and also where they are located, it encrypts that particular file. So it can add another extension. Okay, it can add another extension to the file. Okay, if it's a .pdf, we find that maybe Indian Cybersecurity Solution.pdf changes to Indian Cybersecurity Solution.pdf.locked with a different extension. Even if you try to rename it, that particular file is or remain encrypted. I'm going to show in the next few seconds what I mean or what I'm talking about. Then after that, the delivery of a ransom note. Okay. After encrypting the files, it needs to deliver now a note, which may employ extortion tactics, requesting you to make a particular payment. Requesting you to make a particular payment. So these are the three stages involved in the ransomware encryptions. In the ransomware encryptions, the file discovery, the encryption of files, and the delivery of the ransomware. Okay, what next? So let's look at now some of the indicators of the ransomware. We have our files encrypted on our device, and also a note has been displayed on our screen saying that we need to pay a particular amount or a ransom in order for our files to be decrypted. Okay, so what is next? Let us look at the indicators of ransomware. Okay, so I've got typical indicators of ransomware, which include specific files extension. From nowhere, the extension of your files changes from .pdf to .pdf.locked or .pdf.wannacry. The extension changes. Okay, this indicates a ransomware, or it is also another indicator of a ransomware. A ransom not left on the infected system. There will always be a ransom not left. So in most cases, it can be when you try to open the file, you are unable to, then it will try to display a particular note, okay, asking you to pay a particular amount. Apart from that, abnormal large disk IO activity. From nowhere, you just observe some changes in your disk activity. From nowhere, your machine becomes slow. From nowhere, your machines starts lagging. From nowhere, your storage gets full. From nowhere, there is that change in the usage of your storage or your disk. Okay, so these are some of the common indicators of the ransomware. So we can look at the case start before we can jump into the demonstration of the ransomware. So we can just look at the first just few seconds. We look at one of the most common case start of the ransomware, the recent one that has to do with the United Health. Okay, the United Health. Okay. Oh yeah. So the United Health, where this organization lost about 300 billion US dollar through the ransomware attack. All right. So this is a recent case study. Okay, that which happened in the year 2024 February, specifically in the United States, where a group of leading healthcare providers fell a victim to a devastating ransomware attack, which targeted their subsidiary UpNow Insight. So, with this case study, the cyber criminal group, the Alpha, which is we who are also known as the Black Cat, they deployed a ransomware that encrypted critical systems, which led to the disruption in the operation of everything here. Okay, so the breach compromised the personal health information of over 100 million individuals. 100 million individuals, making it one of the most severe healthcare data breaches in the history. This is the recent uh, data breach, which was a result of the ransomware attack, and this was last year, February. Not only that, there were also some financial repercussions, which were staggering, and the United Health, the same organization, reported direct response cost amounting to 1.5 billion US dollars and a total of cyber attack impacts of about 2 billion US dollars in just 9 months. Okay, and by September 30, the total was about 3 point something billion US dollars. So this is the recent case study that we can look at, the United Health 2020 February 2024, which led to over 100 millions of data breach of over 100 million individuals data, which were compromised through the same ransomware attack. So let us try to look at now and or understand more on ransomware or how they operate. So I'll share my screen and also look at or understand more in the case of the practical. So what I've done, I have just created a simple ransom that is able to encrypt some of the files on my devices, so that for those who are starting now the IT industry or the security part, you understand what we are clearly talking about here. Okay. Also, it is coming with a decryptor command or decryptor code that can be used to decrypt. Like I mentioned earlier, every malware has got a different situation. That's why it's important as experts you are able to analyze these malwares as well as their impact before taking any action. Before you act or respond to them, you need to clearly understand their impact, not just their impact, their behaviors. If it's a ransomware, understand. If it's just these other malwares, understand them as well as try to know or find out the kind of information that these particular malwares will steal from your organization. All right. Thank you. Now let us look at an hands-on activity on the ransomware, how they encrypt information. So here we'll just do a demonstration on how it happens or how uh, ransomware encrypts our files and our devices, or how that happens. Okay, so mostly when we're talking about the ransomware now, it encrypts all the information, not just the information but files. This might have people who may be wondering how this can be done, or and the like. So so I'll go to my repository, my GitHub repository. I have uh, a ransomware I just crafted using PowerShell. So this is specifically for Windows. So you can go to my Git repository, set for Peter Moses GitHub. Then you'll find a repository named ransomware, where which you can use just to for educational purposes only. Just educational purpose. Please do not perform this action on a computer which doesn't belong to you. Please only do this on the machine or a computer system that you have full control of, or that you own. Okay. So what I will do here, mostly, if you run here, please go through the README document, which is very, very important, so that you can get to understand the 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 kind of malware we are talking about. So go through the README and try to gather the understanding behind this particular malware that we are talking about. All right, so you can download or go straight. This is the PowerShell. Okay, this is the ransomware I was talking about. So this is what we have here inside. So there are times you can try to, if you have found it, you can try to decompile the malware as well, so that you can understand the kind of information, the kind of malware it is, as well as the information to correct from your device, from your computer system. By doing this, you find that you'll be able to respond or eradicate this particular incident effectively, and you're able to know how to prevent it in future. So you download it, okay, by clicking on the download there icon. Go back to the ransomware repository, open the README, which is already open, and you can follow the instructions. So the first step here, we need to learn, like, this is the simulation, like I mentioned earlier. It's able to encrypt files. So make sure that you only do it on your system that you have full control of, or that you own. Okay, so remember, this is just for educational purposes, and don't do it on someone's systems or computer system. So I've downloaded it. I'll go to my downloads. Okay, I'll just copy it. This is the file. Okay, I have two of them. I'll copy the first one. Then I'll look for a folder just for the demo sake. I'll go to here. Again, I'll look for a folder where I'll paste it. Okay, just for the demo. I'll try to, okay. So I'll try to decrypt all these files. So I've got PDF, documents. So if you have got .php extension, .docs extension, all those files, they'll be encrypted. All right, so I'll just check. Okay, so I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. Okay, it is here. I'll paste it in here, or to directory where I want to do what? To encrypt files. If I want, I can put it on the desktop. So I put it on the desktop, we find that to decrypt all files, everything on my desktop. So for this one, like I mentioned, it's just for educational purposes. What it will do, it will decrypt these files and back them at the same time, in case you fail to decrypt, in case you don't have the decryptor. So you'll be able to find a backup. Okay, you'll be able to find a backup. So what is next? You can open here. in you can open your PowerShell. Sorry, I'll just search for PowerShell. Then I run PowerShell with full permission. So I'll run it as an administrator. I'll run PowerShell as an administrator. Okay, I'll run it as an administrator. Then now you need to change your directory to where you want to, for the sake, you change your directory to where you want to decrypt. Okay, you change your directory to where you want to decrypt your files. So in our case, it's on, let's check, let's copy the directory. I want to decrypt this directory. So I can copy this directory. Where is it? Let me close this one. I can close this one, right? So I'll just copy this directory. Okay. Then now I can change my directory here. I'll say cd, which is change directory. Then like that. Okay. Then I'll put everything here into double quotes like that. Sorry, into double quotes, something like this. So let's try if this will work. Okay. All right. So we're now inside the directory that we want to decrypt. So it will decrypt everything in this file directory or path. If we put it on desktop, to decrypt everything on desktop. If we put it on C drive, to decrypt, so it will encrypt all files inside the C drive. Then we can go back here. After doing this, we learn the command, this command. Okay, like I mentioned, this is how we designed it just for simulations. So we open this. Okay, then I'll paste, sorry, I paste like that and see if it will work out. If you won't work out, then there must be some restriction that has to do with the PowerShell policies. Then we can learn the code. So here cannot be loaded. The file is not digitally signed. You cannot learn this script. All right, so you can see this has to do with the policies. Then we can run it with the full policy. There must be a policy here. Okay. Execution allow policy script learn. So we need to learn this. Okay. Or we can learn this. Or we can learn this code. Where is the code? Let's learn it. In my case, it's already here. So I'll run it here to do what? To bypass the PowerShell restriction on my system. Or you can just learn that. Okay. Which is the execution policy, which can allow you to learn the scripts. So I'll run it, then bypass. Then yes. Okay, it's done. Then now we can run back the commands. So you can see it's done now, saying our files have been locked. So if there is a ransomware, so it will also display here asking us to pay a particular amount. So you can see in our case, our files have been locked. Yeah. Then this is a training simulation only, like I mentioned earlier. Our files are still safe as well as fully recoverable. We can still fully recover our files. Okay. All right. So this is what happens. So here they can now demand for a ransom. They ask you to pay into a particular wallet address. Into a particular wallet address. So we can go back to our files and check desktop. Okay. All right. So we can see here that all files are locked. Have you seen? This is the backup files I was talking about. That's a backup folder created. That's the backup folder I was talking about. Okay. In our case, this is backup. We managed to back up all the files, but if you check, this is the encryption that we're talking about. The files have been encrypted. Okay, files have been encrypted. Even if we try to open one, let's try to open it with Notepad. You see that these files have been encrypted. You can't read them because they have been encrypted. Okay, they have been encrypted, and you can only recover them if you have a decryptor. You can only recover them if you have a decryptor. You can only recover them if you have a decryptor. So everything has been encrypted. Okay, everything has been encrypted. Okay, all the files have been encrypted. So if you look at the status of ransomware, we have managed to talk about the three stages of ransomware. Where the first one we talked about the encryption, the discovering of files, the encryption. Then what happened after encrypting? There was a ransom note that popped up. So those are the three stages of ransomware. Okay, and that's what happens each and every uh, a time. So let's look at now how we can restore the files, and we can only restore the files if you have got a decryptor. In my case, I'll go back. I need a decryptor. So the same program is also a decryptor, can be used as a decryptor. So I'll copy it and paste it back in that file. Okay, so it's also a decryptor. So if you don't have a decryptor, then you'll be unable to decrypt these files no matter what. Unless if you understand this particular ransomware, how it was crafted, then you'll be able to come up with your own decryptor. Though we have organizations with decryptors for the well-known ransomwares, but for the latest ones, we found that you are going to have issues or challenges in decrypting those malwares unless you understand the malware, or you understand, or you do a reverse engineering on that particular ransomware. So what we'll do, we'll learn back the same command, then we can do restore here, just to restore. Okay, what is it saying? Lablan. Okay, let's copy the entire command and see, maybe it will allow us. Okay, it will allow us to bypass. I've already bypassed that, unless otherwise, so we can just copy and paste, then we restore. Right, so restore complete. We go back. All right, so those are the files that we have. The installation is done. Okay, this is the installation that has been made. We have managed to restore back our files to their origin because we have the decryptor. If you don't have the decryptor, this is now where you can use other method just to recover from this attack, the ransomware attack. But if you have a decryptor, you don't have to initiate the other phases of recovery. You just need to run the decryptor, and it will decrypt the files on your computer system. And that can only happen if you have got the knowledge in ransomware, as well as understanding everything here. That's where now we experts can come in. Okay. All right, so we have got other ways of detecting ransomware apart from the encryption of files. We've got other ways it can be used to detect ransomware apart from the 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 decryption, the encryption part. where the files extension gets changed. We have got ways where you can use the logs, okay, where you can use the logs as well as the CMs, and that's if as an organization you store logs or you keep logs or you monitor logs, then it becomes easy to monitor the normalities in your system and the like. But if you don't have any, then it becomes a challenge. It's like as an organization, you are blind and you don't know what is happening in your network. So this is now what we are looking at, how we can prevent ransom, as well as some of the controls that we can put in place as an organization, as an institution, as well as an individual. Because cyber security is for everyone. It requires everyone's effort. Your efforts, my efforts, everyone's efforts. It's not just for governments, for private companies, but for every net zen or internet user. So let us look at some of the prevention techniques for ransomware. Start with the first one. Regular patching and vulnerability management are crucial to close security gaps that ransomware could exploit, and this includes updating operating systems, applications, and firewall. All right, so when we talk about patching and vulnerability management, as an organization, how often do you conduct a VAPT? Okay, or how regular do you conduct a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? Is it annually or after some years? Vulnerability assessment is a continuous process. If you are conducting a vulnerability assessment, it becomes easier for you to identify the security gaps that are there in the organization, as well as that ransomware could exploit. But if you are not conducting a vulnerability assessment, it becomes difficult as an organization. Not only that, you also become vulnerable to some of the attacks, such as the ransomware attacks. Not only that, conducting a vulnerability assessment to enable you as an organization to keep on updating your operating system, because you'll be able to discover that your operating systems are outdated, your operating system has reached its end of life, your operating systems or your networking devices requires a firmware update. But if you're not doing so, it becomes a challenge. Not only that, if you observe that your operating system requires an update, kindly do so. Proceed with an update. Not just the operating system, but also other application that requires an update, including the firmwares. Most cases, not just organization, but even us citizens, there are times we ignore updates that we received. Okay, so let us make sure that every time there is an update, we update our systems, our devices to the latest versions of firmwares. The other thing that we can put in place is the principle of risk privilege. Most organizations they comply with risk privilege, or they apply what you call the rollback access control. Okay, so applying the principle of risk privilege ensures that only the users or users access data they are supposed to access, or based on their what roles or duties. Okay, which reduces the risk of ransomware gaining widespread access. If you are a receptionist, the access to your system should be of that receptionist. You're not supposed to have access to other parts or modules of the computer system. By doing that, you are risking the system to other malwares. Okay, so let us try by all means that we apply the principle of risk privilege on our systems. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, which is also another principle that we can apply to prevent ransomware in our organizations. Okay, so implementing multi-factor authentication adds a layer of security. Adds a layer of security. We already know about the identities of authentication, where we have got the task one, task two, the identity 1, 2, 3, or something that you know, something that you have, as well as something that you are. Okay, so MFA adds a layer of security, making it more difficult for attackers to gain unauthorized access. Even if passwords are compromised, they are unable to bypass the security measures of that layer of security. So organizations, they can enforce multi-factor authentication on all users' accounts. More especially administrators, we can try to enforce MFA. Okay. Doing this will reduce the risk of ransomware, not just ransomware, but other malware attacks. So we can try by all means to implement multi-factor authentication, where maybe another code or a passcode can be going to the email, can be sent to the text number registered with that particular admin or user. This adds another layer for security on our system. Secure remote protocol, desktop protocol. If you remember very well, I talked about the remote desktop protocol, which is essential. Most organizations they use to access servers. You can build the Windows servers. So organization can try by all means by restricting access to the RDP protocols, or they can only be using RDP protocols internally and not externally. Doing so, they are reducing the risk of attacks on their servers. Okay. Otherwise, if they have allowed uh, external access to the RDP protocol, then they are increasing the risk on their servers. Apart from these, disabling unused services, there are some services that an organization uses. Okay, there are some services an organization uses, services that an organization is not using. So we are always advised to disable all those unused services, which may reduce the potential entry points for a ransomware. Okay, so this can only be done through audits. You check the configuration for your devices, which can be the firewalls. What services are you running on your system, and what services are you not supposed to run on a system? There are some systems, some firewalls you find that they may be using two services. I'll give an example of maybe SSH at the same time Telnet is enabled. So these misconfigurations in the servers, in the firewalls, they can only be noticed through the auditing. So if you find that you're not supposed to use Telnet in your organization and Telnet is currently being used, or the service Telnet is enabled in your system, and as an organization you have a policy which has to do with Telnet, why you are not allowed to use Telnet service in your network. So in that case, you need to disable that particular service that you are using as an organization. Otherwise, that service you're not using one day will be used as an entry point for ransomware or other attacks. Well, okay, apart from these other restrictions that can help or limit the spread of the ransomware within an organization is through network segmentation, where an organization may divide a given network into segments that they can easily manage, that they can easily manage. And you find that this will restrict an attacker's movement as well as minimizing the damage to the entire network or the computer system. Offline backups is also another techniques that can assist us, more especially critical for recovery in case of a ransomware attacks. So it's also another techniques that can assist us, and this should do, and we need to regularly test these backups to ensure that data integrity and accessibility during recovery effort is okay. Okay, so I might skip the backup testing. All right, so there's sorry, there's something missing. Just a minute. All right, so we are looking at the prevention of ransomware as well as the controls for hardening. So we are still looking at the prevention of ransomware as well as the controls for ransomware. Okay. And then the other controls that we can implement here is in hands-on. We can talk about the how we can prevent this ransomware through our firewalls. Okay, so this can be using where we can use the Windows Defender firewalls as well as the Linux based on the file that you are currently using. So if you are using a Linux, you can implement either on your Linux environment, on your Windows environment, whatever server that you may have in place. So we can start with a Windows Defender, which is a user-friendly interface for creating a firewall rules. Okay, so most of the firewall that we talk about of a firewall mostly it works like a load block or checkpoint. Okay, so it's able to block traffic coming in as well as leaving our network. And this is based on the rules that we have defined as an organization. And most of the rules they are based on the inbound and outbound rules. So we can create an inbound rules which may restrict the traffics coming into our network. We can also do an outbound rule that restricts traffic leaving our network or our computer system. I guess we'll do this one maybe in case you want to restrict certain traffics from leaving your network. We can do something. Okay, so on this one we can easily do it on Windows Defender if you're using Windows or the Linux. So you can set for just Defender. You can set for Defender. Let me, okay, all right. See that entire screen. All right, so if you look at here, the entire firewall for Windows Defender is based on two main rules, the inbound and the outbound rule. So what we are going to do, once we're on this page, you go to advanced settings. Okay. When you check on advanced settings here, we have got two main rules here, the inbounds and the outbounds. The inbounds, these are traffics coming in, or these are rules that will be applied on the traffics, that is the traffics entering our network. Then the outbound rules, talking about those traffics that will be applied on uh, traffics leaving our network. Traffics leaving our network. So we're going to create an outbound rule, which will be easier for us to detect. So when you click on outbound rules, you see a number of rules here. Okay, so I've got the name, the group it belongs to, the profile is saying this particular rule is applied to all organization, like to all profiles. Then the status has been enabled, action allow. So if you want to disable, you can edit it and change the action to disable. Okay. So you can use the GUI or the PowerShell itself in creating a rule or a particular yeah, just a rule or a particular file rule. You can either use the graphical, this one, or the PowerShell. So if you want to create, a new outbound, you click on new rule here, because this is a new rule that we are trying to add to our system that can assist us in limiting what is coming into our network as well as leaving our network. Okay. Then you choose the kind of role that you want or the connection for a particular program. So you can have the program. If you have the program, then you choose the program. In our case, we'll do a custom rule. So I'll click on custom, then you go to next. And then we'll say we have to apply this rule to all connections on our computer. But if you just want a particular program, I'll give an example, maybe Windows browser, then you can specify just that particular program to be blocked or to apply it to a particular program. That's all. So I'll say maybe all programs, because I want this to be applied to a program without excluding any program on my machine. Then protocol type, you can say any, can leave it on default. Okay, here you can leave them on default. Then if it's a local address, you add your local address. If it's remote address, I'll give an example. You want maybe to block you want to block which one can you talk about? Let's say you want to block which one can I give an example? Okay, failing to access the browsers, so just a minute. Okay, you want to block, I'll give an example of facebook.com. You want to block facebook.com. Okay, Facebook has a lot of okay, let's say you want to block Indian cybersecurity solutions. An example on Indian cybersecurity solutions. You need to add the addresses for this. Okay. And let me just take the domain. Okay. All right. So you want to block Indian cybersecurity solution. So for you to block restrict access to this, you need to add the IP addresses. You need to add the IP addresses here. You need to add the IP addresses here. Okay, so how we're going to get these IP addresses? We'll open our command prompt and type nslookup. We're going to open our command prompt and type nslookup. Just let's have a look at IP addresses for this domain name and add them to our file row, the new flow that we are creating. Okay. So there is only one address that we have that has been shown here. Just one. So try to add it and see if it will work out. So we'll go back to our IP. And add. Right, so we can now add those IP addresses that we have extracted to the file row that we are creating. Okay, so I'll click on add, then I'll paste that IP, then I'll click on OK, then next, then I choose the connection type, like the action that should be taken in case we receive a traffic that is about to go to the mentioned address. So we can say block the connection, click next. Okay, so this rule should apply to all domains, private addresses, as well as the public addresses. Next. Then we can give it, so this is for Indian cybersecurity solutions. All right, so I give it that name, and then I'll say finish. Okay. So if I try to access Indian, I guess I must fail to access it now. Let me try. All right, so you can see. So by closing some of these services, you find that may assist us in restricting access to our network, as well as in risk and in reducing the ransom attack on our machines as well as the computer system. So we're going to unblock it. So if you want to unblock it, this here, you can just disable the rule. It's enabled. You can disable the rule or delete it. In my case, I'm deleting it completely. Okay, then I'll rerun. Okay, so you can now have access to the site. All right, so we can do this. Okay, we can do something like this. Not only this, but we can also block some of the other services. Okay, some of the other services, we like maybe SMB, we can block SMB spread in our network. Okay, all the SMB is able to block. We can create a rule that is able to block SMB, a rule that is able to block remote desktop. We can create those, just reducing access to our computer system, because once we have more services open, we find that hackers can use those services just to deploy a ransom on our machine. All right, so we are going to assume that we are now attacked. Okay, one of our machines was infected with a ransomware and the files got encrypted. What are some of the things that we can do as experts? Or what actions can we take as experts? The first of all, before I can talk about the containment, is preparation. As an organization, how prepared are you? So preparation should be first before an attack happens. We need to prepare by coming up with the incident response plans, which should be in place. So we don't have to wait for an attack, then we start preparing for an incident. So the first thing an organization needs to have people in place, needs to prepare for that particular attack. Second, how have you identified the assets that needs or requires identification, that requires protection? An organization needs to identify assets and then continue identifying threats to those particular assets. Okay. Then we can come to containment. But before you can contain, you must be able to identify the computer which has been infected. Which computer or which part of our computer system has been infected? Once you have identified that particular part which is infected, then you are able to contain. Okay, you are able to contain. By containing, you are isolating the infected part of the computer system from the network. If it's the computer itself, you disconnect it from the network, avoiding the spread of that particular malware to the other parts of the computer systems or the other computers that you may have in your network. All right, so after containment, what is next? You analyze now. Okay, you need to know the patterns of the malware before you can take the action. This is now where you can use the sandboxes or the VMwares to understand the pattern or the behavior of that particular malware, so that you can come up with the best eradication methods. The best eradication method. Okay, so when it comes to the studying of the pattern, like I've mentioned, never should you open any of these affected files or malwares direct on your computer system, no matter what. Never should you open any of them on your computer, direct on your computer system, because your computer system may also get infected. So you need to open those files in your sandbox or in the sandbox environment or the VM environment. Okay, so once that stage you are done with that, then you proceed to the next step. Okay, which is now removing those malwares or the ransomware from the system. So this action should be based on the analysis you got. Okay, because you cannot just apply eradication when you haven't understood the patterns or the behavior of that particular ransomware. Okay, so that's another mistake that experts make in the industry. They rush to eradication without understanding what they are dealing with. It's important that you contain, you remove that part from the network, then you take the analysis. You start what kind of malware it is, get to know that particular malware before you can remove the root cause. You need to understand the root cause. Okay, so eradication will be based now on what you have discovered. If it's installing some malwares, you install the malwares that will remove. You install the anti-malwares, then you install the anti-malwares or antiviruses that will remove all the malwares, all the backdoors, as well as malicious accounts on that particular system. You can do patch management and then try to harden the security controls just to prevent the infection of the system. So this can only apply if we understand the malware that we are dealing with as an organization. Then, if this fails, we go to the next phase, which is this recovery phase. With the recovery phase, we are restoring the system and services to normal operations. Then we continue monitoring for signs of infection again. Then the process continues again and again. But before that, remember always to document what you rent from this particular incident, which can either be the ransomware incident, what new things you rent. Everything that you rent needs to be documented, or you need to provide a report for that particular incident. You need to provide a report for that particular incident. All right, I think now we have come to the end of our ransomware prevention techniques. Uh, Before that, we can look at some of the takeaways that can be applied for an effective ransomware prevention. So I'll just display them here. Okay. So if you look at the presentation area, our focus was on the effective practices for safeguarding against ransomware. Our focus was just on ransomware. And then we talked about regular data backups. Also mentioned of patch management, where we can enforce the principle of risk management, implementing the multi-factor authentication. Not only that, awareness training. Users need to be trained. We cannot fight a crime we do not understand. A crime we do not understand. We cannot also fight an attack we do not understand. So our users need to be trained as well. So you and I providing awareness training to our users is something that can assist organization in preventing the spread of ransomware attacks or other similar attacks as well. All right, so that was the takeaway, and it was nice to really interact and also have a session with everyone that you managed to join just on the ransomware prevention skills. And this was, I believe, was an interactive workshop specifically trying to understand the malware, the ransomware, as well as some of the prevention techniques that we can use at an individual level as well as an organization level. It's a good evening from me and hoping to have another session with you. You can have a blessed evening. For now, I'll leave it with Miss Sangita.
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Moshish Mupata, for sharing your valuable knowledge and insight with us. And we want to thank each one of you for being a part of this session. Thank you for joining today's session on Hack the Log Ransomware Prevention Skill. And we'll, as mentioned earlier, we'll share a feedback form with you. Please fill the feedback form to get a certificate for this session. And definitely, we'll look forward again for a session with Mr. Moshe Mupata for his valuable knowledge and insight regarding cybersecurity. We'll look forward to seeing you in an upcoming workshop. Until then, stay safe and stay secure. Thank you so much, everyone.